So, hi everyone. Yeah, like Paula said, I'm Orla. I was a SERB volunteer in 2019 and I traveled to Mozambique as part of that volunteer program. Just recently, I've been awarded my Silver Global Citizen Award and I'm studying fashion design in college. So, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about fast fashion and more so the environmental effects of fast fashion because I feel most people have a very good grasp of like the human effects we know about sweatshops, child labor, all of that kind of a thing. But today, the topic is so vast, we're really just going to focus in on environmental effects. So I think I actually should have taken this slide out because I did this presentation before with a different group, but you guys probably already know this. I know that you've had a talk on the history of fast fashion before. So just, I guess, if you want to think about them before we start, but if you're doing think local, I'm pretty sure you know that our day-to-day actions affect others. We're going through the slideshow today. We're going to be focusing in on different sustainable development goals. So when we're talking about fast fashion, it connects into so many of the goals. So you could talk about poverty, you could talk about zero hunger, good health and well-being if they're in poor working conditions, quality education, gender equality. It links in with all of those. But today we're going to be focusing on goal 6, clean water and sanitation, goal 12, responsible consumption and production, goal 13, climate action, goal 14, life below water, and goal 15, life on land. So yeah, we're just going to try and tie everything in to the sustainable development goals because I know that you guys are doing a lot of work around that. So how fast fashion is impacting our environment and contributing to climate change. We're going to be discussing today greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, oil consumption, water pollution, waste and overconsumption, as well as chemicals and pesticides, and all of this in relation to the fashion industry. So before we start, I have an extremely quick Mentimeter quiz. There is all of 3 questions because I use the free version and it's very limited. So if you want to pop over to Mentimeter and then I'll yell out the code to you. So on Mentimeter, the code is 20624607. Oh, wait, now I probably need to open it up and stuff first.
Would you like me to put it in the chat, Orla? You shout it out.
Yeah, I'll shout it out again there now. I'm just trying to get it started. It's 20624607.
I love the names that Menti give people.
Yeah, and the little characters.
Yeah.
I don't know where they get them from. Like,
if anyone's having a difficulty getting in, just shout anyway.
So there's 9 people in it now. If there's anyone that's struggling to get in. Okay, am I going to assume by the lack of shouts that nearly everybody is in?
Yeah, fire ahead.
Yeah, okay. There's only 3 questions anyways. If somebody's not in, we'll be back in a second. Ooh, very split. Yeah, so that's the first question. How many tons of CO2 does the fashion industry use annually? And it's 1.2 billion tons every year. The second question is how many trees does the fashion industry use annually? Yeah, so lots of people got that one right. It's 150 million. So the fashion industry cuts down 150 million trees every year. And then our final question is how much water does it take to make one pair of jeans? So just one pair of jeans. So it's actually 7,000 liters for every single pair of jeans that is made. So if you think about how many jeans is made every day, each of those takes 7,000 liters, and it's usually fresh water that is used. So now that our quick Mentimeter is over, I'll just share my screen again and we'll get into the presentation. So all of those answers we're going to be going through kind of in a bit more detail. Oh, can everyone see the screen now? Yeah, it's sharing. Yeah, okay, perfect. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the greenhouse gases. So this would be goal 13, climate change. So the fashion industry is responsible for around 1.2 billion tons of CO2 a year. It's estimated that the industry itself is responsible for around 10% of the global greenhouse gas emissions annually, which puts it at one of the worst industries in the world for greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. I think it ranks somewhere around 2 or 3. It kind of depends on who you talk to, it changes, but it's definitely behind agriculture, and then after that it kind of fluctuates. But if the industry doesn't change, these CO2 emissions could increase by 60% by 2030. So that's only 9 years away now, and we're talking about a 60% increase. As well as the huge amount of carbon dioxide, the industry actually releases a lot of nitrous oxide. So every time that we make nylon, which is a type of fabric that I'm sure nearly everybody has in their wardrobe. So if you check, we're going to be talking about a few different fabrics, but if you check all of your clothing tags, you'll actually be able to see all of the fabrics that we talk about today because they're very commonly used. But nylon produces nitrous oxide, and nitrous oxide is actually 3 times more potent than CO2 for the environment, which means every single piece, like every 1 pound of nitrous oxide is 3 times worse for the environment than 1 pound of carbon dioxide. So as well as all of the CO2, we're actually releasing this gas every single time that we make nylon. The breakdown for where the emissions come from is estimated to be about 15% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from raw materials and fiber production. So that's taking like where we take it from the cotton plant and then turn it into a thread. So about 15% of our emissions come from that. And then about 28% comes from yarn preparation. So that's the next stage where you have the thread and you're just getting that ready and making it into a fabric. And then 36% comes from dyeing and finishing. So once you have the fabric, then making it into the color you want, or if you have effects, so say if you have ripped jeans or stonewashed jeans or anything like that, that whole process, like shrink resistance, all of that creates huge emissions as well. The second point is deforestation, and this relates to goal 15, life on land. So deforestation is actually the second leading cause of climate change worldwide. And what some people might not know, most of you probably do know it, but I'll say it anyways, is that trees actually act as like carbon sinks throughout their life. So what happens is that we all learned that trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, but every single piece of carbon dioxide that a tree takes in throughout its life, it stores and it keeps it in the tree. So when you then knock that down, you're releasing all of that carbon dioxide back into the, and the fashion industry knocks 150 million trees every single year to use for a viscose textile, which is again just another type of fabric wood pulp. But as well as the environmental, like climate change problem to it, deforestation also contributes to loss in biodiversity, which puts our ecosystems at risk. And it is said that the fashion industry will use 35% more land for fabric production by 2030. That's 115 million extra hectares that could be left to preserve biodiversity. So again, in 9 years' time, we're talking about seeing a huge jump in all of the problems within the industry if we don't start to see changes now. Oil consumption. So when we're talking about oil consumption, the main thing that is associated with oil is synthetic fabrics. So when you talk about fabrics, you have kind of two different classes. We have natural fabrics on this side, which are made kind of directly from a plant or from a natural resource. So like wool is a natural fabric because it comes from the sheep. Cotton and linen come directly from a plant. And then on this side, we have synthetic fabrics, which are made from plastics that are then made from fossil fuels. So oil consumption by the fashion industry will triple from 98 million tons today to 300 million tons by 2050 in order to keep up with the demand for synthetic fabrics. 63% of our clothes are made from synthetic fabrics, and most of that is polyester. It would be the most popular synthetic fabric. Nearly all of the clothes made nowadays are made from polyester. And each year, polyester uses 17 million barrels of oil. And we kind of have a slightly better version of polyester. You can use recycled polyester. So like designers, brands, they have the option to use that if they're dead set on using polyester. And every 10,000 meters of recycled polyester would save around 70,000 barrels of crude oil. However, most brands don't choose to work with it because it's kind of more expensive. It's more expensive to make. It takes more time. All of that kind of a thing. And that's a theme that we're going to see going through. Designers and brands have other alternatives that are very readily available to them. They're just a bit more time consuming, a little bit more costly, and therefore going to lower their overall profits in the short term, so they're choosing not to use them. So the next point is on water wastage, and it talks about goal 6, sanitation. So it's estimated that more than 884 million people don't have access to clean drinking water, and this stat was released by the World Health Organization and UNICEF in 2017, so it relates back to 2017 that 884 million didn't have clean drinking water. But the fashion industry uses an enormous amount of water. So it takes 8,000 liters to make a pair of jeans, like we saw earlier, and it takes 2,700 liters of water to make one cotton shirt. So all the water that goes into your one cotton shirt that you buy, you might wear, you might not wear it, that's actually enough water for one person to drink for 2.5 years. So when we put those two stats together, all the people who don't have access to clean drinking water, and then all the water that is used to make just one t-shirt that some people buy and never even wear, it's quite alarming. Water consumption is also set to double by the fashion industry by 2030 if things don't change. So in 9 years' time, we are going to be using twice as much water. And again, organic cotton is an option available to brands. It uses 75 to 80% less water, but it only makes up 1% of the cotton grown worldwide. So it's basically nothing. Like we're not really making enough organic cotton to be making an impact. And the reason for that is because there's such a demand Organic cotton takes longer to grow because 75 to 85% of it is rain-fed, which means it's going to take longer. Also, you're not allowed to use pesticides or toxins or anything like that on organic cotton, which is great for the environment, but it means it takes longer to grow, which means brands don't want to work with it. And then water pollution, goal 14 and goal 6. So water pollution can be split into kind of two main categories. So when we talk about textile dyeing or when we talk about microplastics. So the textile industry is responsible for around 20% of water pollution worldwide. Textile dyeing is the second largest polluter of clean water globally after agriculture. And finishing chemicals such as shrink resistance, stain resistance, and flame retardants also cause high levels of pollution. So the problems with pollution run all the way from the growing of the raw material to how the consumer cares for the product. And in some cases in the dyeing sector, only 50% of the dye actually sticks to the fabric and the rest is then washed away into the water systems. So it's kind of a problem, like, why are we using a system that only 50% of it is going to stick? Also, I know that this is about the environmental impacts, but also to do with dyeing. 60 to 80% of all fabric colorants, so fabric dyes, are azo dyes, which actually release chemicals when the fabric comes into contact with the skin. So therefore, because our skin is porous, our clothes are actually releasing chemicals back into our skin, into our systems. And denim, I know denim is historically known to be blue and it's well known like blue denim, but this is actually the color of denim. So this is natural undyed denim. And then all the chemicals are put into it to make it blue. It takes around 8,000 chemicals to make something go from the raw material into the finished product that you see in the shop. So around 8,000 chemicals for every single garment. But denim, actually synthetic dyes for denim, some of them are known to have a chemical called aniline in it. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's like aniline. And the EPA has classified this as a group B2 probable human carcinogen, meaning that it may cause cancer and it is harmful to aquatic life. So brands are actively putting these chemicals into our clothes, knowing that they're damaging to us and toxic to aquatic life when they're washed into the waterways. And they're doing it because they're making money and therefore they don't actually have to change what they're doing. And then the second thing that we talk about with water pollution is microplastics. So like we said earlier, with natural and synthetic fabrics, every time that you wash a synthetic fabric, because it's made up of plastic and fossil fuels, actually tiny little pieces of it, which are called microplastics, break away in every single wash and they go into the waterways. So 35% of microplastics in our oceans come from clothing and textiles, and this is the highest cause of microplastics pollution. And this is just from us washing our clothes at home because they're made from plastic. When we wash our clothes, we're breaking them down and we're damaging them, and then that's going out into the environment. It's going into our oceans, into our rivers. Every single time that we wash our clothes, up to 700,000 microfibers can come off. So 700,000, if you're doing a wash every single day and you're releasing 700,000 microfibers every single day, unknowingly. And then overconsumption and waste. This is kind of the problem that has led to all of the other problems. This demand to keep up, the demand for clothes, the overproduction of it, which then makes people believe that they have to overconsume it. If the overconsumption and waste wasn't such a huge problem, all of the other problems wouldn't be as huge. We wouldn't be using as much water. We wouldn't be knocking down as much trees. We wouldn't be putting as much chemical in the waterway. So when you say that like balance is everything, if we hadn't gotten to the place where fast fashion was nearly every single piece of fashion, then all of the other problems wouldn't be as bad. But currently we're buying 60% more clothing than we did 15 years ago. So even like the time, like 15 years, it's not even my whole lifetime, but we're buying 60% more clothing now. And if annual clothing sales continue to grow at the same rate, we will reach 160 million tons by 2030, which is 3 times what we are currently producing. So we're talking about tripling our production in 9 years' time. So that is huge when we've already seen how much we've grown and the damage that growth has done to the environment. This is just because they're kind of making you think this, and I think Instagram and social media and all of that has really amplified the problem. So like, even if you see here, like this is all over the place where you link it and then you go into their description and you can click on everything and buy it straight away, and there's no thought process. You go, oh, I like that, I'll buy that. Like, you don't think about it. And then, like, do you ever hear people, or has it ever happened where you bought something and you kind of forgot that you bought it, and then it comes in the post and they go, oh geez, I forgot that I ordered that. That's kind of a problem. If we're forgetting what we're even buying, then we're just mindlessly shopping, like we're just mindlessly producing and consuming stuff that we don't need to be doing. In 2019, in the UK, 10 million single-use outfits were bought for weddings. So just in the UK, sorry, that was a little van or something, 10 million people bought a single-use garment for a wedding that they knew that they were never going to wear it again. So kind of the main like issues, but this is also an issue because I'm sure most of you know what it is, but can anybody just tell me what greenwashing is?
It's like when, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say it's where a company would make it look like they're being sustainable, or basically when they're not. Kind of like, I think H&M are quite bad for it, or they were.
Yeah, exactly. So the Cambridge definition of greenwashing is designed to make people believe that your company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is. So it's essentially where brands use sustainability as a marketing technique in order to kind of prey off consumers who want to make a difference but maybe don't have all of the information or the education to actually know what's what. So greenwashing instructions is exaggerate positive contributions to ethical and sustainable fashion, use manipulative and misleading terminology and imagery, and distract from the ongoing mass production of fast fashion garments. And that is exactly what we see with so many brands who claim to be sustainable or who have sustainable lines, even though every other aspect of their business is entirely unsustainable. So Boohoo is the biggest brands in the UK and in Ireland. And it actually also owns Nasty Gal, Pretty Little Thing and Coast, and they bought the online businesses of Oasis and Warehouse recently. So if you're giving your money to Nasty Gal, Pretty Little Thing, Coast, Oasis or Warehouse, it's all going to the same place as Boohoo. All of those brands are the exact same person getting all of the money. And in 2019, Boohoo was named one of the least sustainable fashion brands in the UK in a report published by the Environmental Audit Committee. So Boohoo is a prime example of fast fashion. They bomb out their clothes. There's no tomorrow. Like, the amount of clothes they have on their website is just insane. And because of that, the quality of their clothes is incredibly poor, but incredibly cheap. And then because the quality is so bad, people don't really keep it for a long time. So some of the problems is overproduction. So that's a huge problem with overconsumption and waste. They don't use environmentally friendly materials. So I haven't seen everything that Boohoo has on its website, but I would imagine that the #1 fabric that they are using is polyester, which we have already seen the problems of with crude oil. We've seen how it produces Microplastics, we've seen how all of the emissions come off synthetic fabrics. There's also no evidence that it has taken meaningful action to reduce or eliminate hazardous chemicals. So nowhere, absolutely nowhere online can you find proof that Boohoo have tried to reduce the chemicals and the toxins in their clothes that they know is harmful to human health and harmful to aquatic life. They don't care, like they haven't tried at all to change that. They haven't tried at all to save water. We've seen how much water they use, and a company that has 123 pages of just dresses with 80 items per page is using quite an amount of water. Let's just put it like that. Can you imagine how many jeans they have on their website and how many jeans they have pre-made that don't even get sold and then just go straight into the rubbish because they're not sold before they become unfashionable. So they don't try to sell them, they just throw them away. Also, poor labor conditions and pay. So in 2019, Boohoo apparently spent 116.8 million on marketing campaigns. However, they were hit with allegations in 2020 that they were paying their workers in Leicester that they were paying their workers in Leicester as little as £3 an hour and forcing them to work in unsafe conditions during the COVID pandemic. So we often think of fast fashion and abuses like that happening in countries very far away, but Leicester in England is very close to home for people to be paying as little as £3 an hour. And if you can afford to spend that much money on your marketing and give that much money to advertisers like this, for example, Molly May, who allegedly is receiving 6-figure deals for her work with Pretty Little Thing, why can't they be paying their garment workers who make their clothes for them every single day? Also, guilty of greenwashing. So Boohoo is our prime example of a company who uses greenwashing. They released a line of 34 sustainable pieces that were made from recycled polyester fabric. 34 pieces isn't even a whole page of dresses. If you're only creating 34 pieces of a sustainable line, you are not a sustainable company. You will not be a sustainable company, and they are simply doing it as a marketing strategy in order to try and gain customers who actually care about where they're spending their money. But that's just one example. There's many, many, many other examples exactly like Boohoo that are extremely popular, that everybody buys from, but that people feel okay in turning a blind eye from what's actually going on within the company. So that's all the bad stuff. And now I don't want you guys to think that like the industry is just awful and that everyone who works in fashion is awful and you can never buy a piece of clothes again, because this is not a everybody has to hate fashion workshop. If that was the workshop thing, I would essentially be talking myself out of a job in the future, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But it's just to educate you, be a bit of knowledge so that you can make your own informed decisions about where you want to spend your money. So to prove to you that not everybody in the industry is terrible, I've just picked 2 examples. So we have loads of people who are making really big change. So like Stella McCartney, for example, is a very well-known name. She's the daughter of Paul McCartney, but she's a very well-respected designer in her own right. She has a huge company, and her company is very much focused on sustainability, on animal rights and all of that. And she's been like a real trailblazer in the industry for sustainability. But 2 examples are Levi's, who in 2011 introduced its waterless technique that reported average water savings of 28 to 96% by using elements such as ozone and reducing the number of denim washes. So Levi's have been able to reduce their water usage in some of their waterless jeans by up to 96%. So that is huge. And as far as I remember, I may be incorrect on this, but if my memory serves me right, then I think I heard that Levi's have agreed to share this technology with other companies in order to help them also reduce their water usage. So that would be amazing, like, to see brands working together in order to make differences, and putting, like, they could use that as their number one thing and use it to make money over other brands. However, they've seen how much sustainability is needed in the industry and is agreeing to share all of this technology with other people, if that's true, which I think it is. And then this jacket here is actually made from a fabric called Pinetex. So Pinetex is made from the waste of the pineapple industry. So the pineapple leaves that are left over after the fruit is sold are then used to create a fabric that is kind of like a leather. And there's loads of examples of this kind of thing happening. So people are using rhubarb, people are using orange skins, people are using seaweed. Everything that you can think of is being used and turned into a fabric. And it's really exciting seeing new things come out in the industry. So now I think Paula is going to break you into breakout rooms. And we're just going to see, I want you guys to talk to yourselves about what kind of things you think that you can do at home in order to either make better decisions when it comes to buying, or reduce your reliance on fast fashion, or like spread awareness to other people, or anything like that. So I think we'll just give it like 5, maybe 10 minutes. We're doing fine for time, I think.
Perfect. Okay, I'll set up just 2 rooms, I'd say, is enough for everyone. Opening now.
Okay, so did everybody have a chat in the breakout room and kind of think of ideas yourselves? Does anybody have any idea that they want to share? Or will I just jump in?
I think, is that link for kilogram on the group chat? I think that Sinead sent it's a pretty cool idea, thing if you want to.
Yeah, I love going
check
to it. You pay for the price of the weight you get. It's really good to get like t-shirts and stuff, but it's all secondhand stuff. And they kind of go all around Ireland. Yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, I've heard of them. They seem really cool, but I've never been in at the same time. I'm like a day late back to Limerick.
And you have to go and get the early bird tickets. You do, like, and it doesn't cost anything for tickets, but it costs like €3 for the early bird ticket, and it's really worth it. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like €3.
Okay, well, the first way that's actually really easy that you can reduce your fast fashion footprint is to just take care of your clothes. So the most sustainable clothes are the ones you already have in your wardrobe, regardless of where you bought them from initially. Like I'm not going to lie, I have a lot of clothes from fast fashion brands in my wardrobe because I used to buy. So ending your life cycle. Of your clothes is a great to do, but you do not need to wash your clothes every single time that you wear it. What you're actually doing is damaging your clothes because they're not built to be washed that much, especially the cheaper clothes that aren't really made to withstand much. Also, when you are washing your clothes, if you wash them at a lower temperature, preferably 30 degrees, this is going to do the same thing. It's just going to help protect them, because washing at higher temperatures damages them, which therefore reduces their life cycle. Use a guppy bag when washing synthetic clothes to reduce microplastic pollution. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, a guppy bag is a bag that you put your clothes into, and then you put that bag into the washing machine. And what it does is, if you're washing synthetic fabrics, it actually catches some of the microplastics so they don't all go out into the waterways. So not all 700,000 fibers or 70,000, I can't remember how many zeros was on that, but not all of them are going into the waterways. Some of them are being catched by the guppy bag. Keep your clothes for longer, extend the life cycle, wear them longer. Just if you wear them longer, then you're going to have to buy less clothes. And if you're looking after them like this, then there's no reason why your clothes shouldn't be lasting you years instead of weeks or months. Use tumble dryers avoid using tumble dryers as much as possible. I thought that said use tumble dryers as much as possible. I was like, that's not right. Also, check what detergent you're using. So does your detergent contain harmful chemicals? So we've already talked about how in the dyeing industry and stuff, the harmful chemicals are going out. But are we actually putting harmful chemicals into the waterways as well in washing our clothes? It's actually estimated that up to 80% of the carbon footprint for your clothing comes from how you look after your clothes at home. So it's all good and well to put all of the blame on the industry, but actually how we look after our clothes, how long we keep our clothes, if we mend our clothes, all of that, what we do with our clothes when we get it home actually contributes up to 80% of the carbon footprint for that piece of clothing. So we do hold some responsibility as well. 2, upcycle your clothing. So these are the very simple and very basic ways: replace buttons, replace zips, fix torn seams. If a zip is gone in your jeans, you do not have to throw out the entire pair of jeans. And if you don't have the sewing skills to fix it yourself, there's seamstresses who fix zips for, I know the one in my town charges about €5 to get a zip fixed, which is one, way cheaper than getting a new pair of jeans, and 2, way better for the environment. So definitely look at those ways. Like, is your garment actually at the end of its life when you're getting rid of it? Like, is there no other possible way to use it? Can you paint on it or embroider it if you're just bored of the look of it? Can you reimagine it? So like, this is a really cool idea. It seems to be a t-shirt that was made into a bag. Like, there's loads of things. And Pinterest, to add, if anybody's on Pinterest, is a great way to look at ideas for upcycling if maybe you think you're not that creative. But it's just a bit of fun as well to have with your clothes to make it last a little bit longer and just do something in the meantime. Then buying secondhand or renting. So this idea came up a lot in our breakout room anyways. I'm sure it came up in the other one as well. So buying these secondhand shops, like charity shops, are great. You'll find some really great pieces and for really cheap as well. Like, I think the most I've spent on one piece of clothing in a charity shop was €12, and that was a proper blazer, like good quality type thing. Also apps like Depop. So this jumper that I'm wearing now, I got off Depop. I love Depop. I get loads of my clothes off it. Thriftify is an Irish website. So I'm pretty sure this was set up during the COVID pandemic. I know it's pretty new anyways, but it's basically where in Ireland came together and went online in one website. So if you go on to Thriftify, you will then be able to gain access to charity shops all over Ireland. And again, it's a very affordable way of doing sustainability, because I know I'm a student, like I can't afford to buy the proper sustainable materials and products that are made with really good quality stuff. Like, at the moment, that's just not where I'm at. So this is where I'm more focused, my sustainability, secondhand look at clothes.
I have a question, if that's okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I use Depop a lot, but an issue I have is it coming and then not fitting. Do you know what Thriftify? Have you any idea? Is it no returns there too? Which I get, obviously, because you can wear it and send it back and they don't know, but I'm only wondering.
I actually don't know if Thriftify does take returns or not. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
But maybe this is like a swapping website. So like the newwardrobe.com, it's also an Irish company, and it's an app and a website. And what you do is you swap clothes with people, or you can rent it. So you can rent clothes for short term say if you're going on holidays and you just want something for the short term and you know you're not going to wear it again when you come back from holidays, you just rent it short term, or you can rent long term for a couple of months and then you send it back and they rent it off to somebody else, or you swap clothes. So like if I gave somebody a t-shirt, they might give me a jumper. And this is it's a new enough startup. I think they might be just hitting their 1 year in business, but I'm not too sure about the returns policy on Thriftify.
Yeah,
But
okay, well,
the-
thank you. Just I'd ask anyway, just in case. But no, I do kind of try as often as I can. You know, some brands you might know your size in if you shop at them before or whatever. So
I always find I usually will message my whoever I'm looking at. I'll usually message them before and I'll be like, look, these are my measurements, like how does it fit on you? Do you think it will fit okay on me? And most people now are nice. I'm sure there's a few people who are just really desperate to get rid of it and will tell you anything. But most people do tend to be really lovely about their answers.
I just looked it up there and it says that you can return it within 14 days of it arriving.
Oh, no way. Fab. Thank you.
No worries.
Perfect. Thanks, Nola. That cleared that one up. And then you can also just swap clothes with family and friends. So I know, like, we used to do this all the time when we were younger, like when we were like 13, 14. And I think people kind of do it less as they get older, but it's definitely a really great way to reduce how much clothes you're buying. I am not telling anybody never to buy clothes again. So if you do want to buy from a brand, I would just recommend that you research who you're buying from. Like, who are you giving your money to? Because your money and your like customer, I don't know where that word is going, but as a customer, your power is what you buy. So do you want to be giving your money and your power to people who don't care about you, aren't treating the environment right, aren't treating their workers right? Or do you want to be giving your money to people who are actually actively trying to make a difference? So this is the main takeaway that I want you to take from this slide. And it's that a business that has nothing to hide usually makes it very easy to find information. They will make it so easy. As soon as you click on their website, it will scream at you everything that they are doing for sustainability. You will not have to dig for it. You will not have to go on the website for an hour trying to find everything. It will all be there because they are very proud of the fact that they are a sustainable business. So when you are researching, look out for materials such as organic cotton or linen. These are and make sure that they have certifications, so third-party certifications, to ensure that they're hitting proper standards. And the certifications are Fair Trade, GOTS, Blue Sign, or EU Eco Label. So if a brand has any of those 4 certifications, then you know you're good to go. They're not doing anything too bad that you need to be worried about. Also, look to see, where does the business carry out their manufacturing? Do they make it easy for you to find that information? Where do they get their materials from? Are they being transparent? Like some brands, you can click in and you can see what farmers they're working with, and then you see exactly what factory it went to, and then you see exactly like how much was used in each garment or whatever. Like, brands who are sustainable are transparent. Do they have water or chemical management in place, and what kind of packaging do they use? So especially with online, I think if you're buying from brands that use, you know, the plastic bags that clothes come in, I think it takes around 20 to 40 years for that plastic to decompose. So that's huge if people are consistently buying. And if a brand is using recyclable or decomposing packaging, then it will usually be on their website somewhere. It's a bit daunting when you're starting off, if you decide to start off and looking at businesses and stuff. So there actually is, I have left 2 businesses here for you. So they're a bit more on the affordable side. Newen would, you're going to pay a little bit more, but if I was to put it in example, it would probably have prices similar to Zara, but sustainable. And it will tell you exactly where every product was made, how much water was used, what they did with everything left over, all their factories. It's it's a good starting place if you're trying to start buying more sustainable pieces that you're going to keep, but that you can also actually afford. And then plant-based, I'm pretty sure, is based in the UK as well, and they pay all their workers and their fabrics are sustainable and all of that. And then that is me pretty much covered. But yeah, just looking out for fabrics. Obviously, there is a lot of change still to happen in the industry, but I'm actually quite hopeful. It's difficult to tackle the big fast fashion brands, but the top designers are really starting to make a change now, and they're coming out now and they've written letters to the industry saying we won't do this anymore, we can't keep up this pace. So we are starting to see shifts, and the hope is that if consumers are more educated on what's happening within the industry, and if the industry becomes more transparent, then we'll be able to see even bigger changes, because brands are going to wake up and realize that their customers want better from them, and that'll only happen if their customers demand better from them by not giving them the money. I do have a few extra resources here left for you guys if anybody is actually just really interested. Fashion Revolution and the Use Less project are two really good Instagram people to follow. Fashion Revolution is particularly good for giving you kind of insights as to what actually happens in the industry, injustices, all of that kind of thing. And they run a big Revolution week every year. You might have seen it. It's like, who made my clothes? And they go and they talk with garment workers and stuff, and they ask brands that question. And then the Use Less project is Instagram based in Dublin. Fashionopolis is a great book by Dana Thomas. I'm myself just nearly finished it. It's great if you're interested, if you want to find out about some of the problems, but also if you want to read the more hopeful side of what people are actually doing to try and make it better. It covers all of that. There's a quiz here, which I would recommend that you do if you're interested in it afterwards. It will help you calculate the carbon footprint of your individual wardrobe. So exactly what is your footprint for your wardrobe? And it's really interesting, and just like, be honest with yourself when you're taking it. Like, nobody else is going to be there and nobody's going to judge you for any of your answers. It's kind of just interesting to see where you're at individually, and then whether or not you want to take things further. And then this is if anybody is buying clothes and you're trying to decide, like maybe you saw it on Instagram and you're like, oh, I really want to buy that. Maybe go through this first and think to yourself, do I actually really want this, or did I just see it and I'm bored and I'm going to impulse buy it? So I'll have all of those left there for you. I'll send this PDF on to Paula, and the resources will be there then if you want them after this. But I will stop blabbering now. Thanks for having me, guys.